Welcome back, everyone, and it is LCS Academy 2022, and we're into week number 2. I'm Mazel, joined by Kangas, yet again the hosts of Academy 2022, and I'm just excited to be here for another week.
Much cleaner intro. I'm happy that we did it this way, where we take
I think
turns.
we worked it out. The week that we took to iron this out every day for an hour a day, we got
the reps in for sure. But you're going to be taking stream 1 this time around. I'll be on stream 2. I'm excited. I get to do the game shows this time around. It's going to be a fun time. But Mazel, before we get into the show, we want to take some time to highlight everything that had happened outside of Academy this week, and also a little bit of a last week recap. So if you've been watching this channel, this Twitch channel, everybody, you probably have seen some of the open qualifiers for Proving Ground Circuit. Congratulations to 100 Thieves Next, Winthrop University, Golden Guardians Academy, they're still in it, and of course, Immortals AoE for all making it into the semifinals. That's fantastic. Winthrop especially, a big upset over Wildcard. That's really cool to see. But also, we had a whole week of Academy last week, Mazel, and some big standout performers. Immortals still undefeated here. A couple teams 3-1.
It's insane.
100 Thieves Academy, CLG Academy, Golden Guardians Academy, and then also Dignitas CSM, kind of in that middle of the pack right there. But here you can see the standouts from the quarterfinals results of that Unified Proving Ground Circuit qualifier. The day one was a little bit stompy. Immortals AoE 100 Thieves Next. Those were a little one-sided.
Hey, made up for it on the secondary stream, right? And you got the 2 full game series.
Hey, in LCS, 100 Thieves are already out of lock-in. EG are still going strong, but if you're a 100 Thieves fan, you're watching Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers, because that's where they're succeeding right now. So awesome to see what's shaking out in the amateur scene right now, leading into then Proving Grounds that will be coming at the end of the Academy season. But again, to round out the rest of what happened last week with Academy, if you have not seen it and you need to watch one match, go back and watch Team Liquid versus Evil Geniuses Academy. That series was absolutely insane. That's where Bjergsen got his 1 win of the week. That was a big storyline there, but also just the match at the end was so cool. So already week 1 set us up with some fantastic matches. Cannot wait to see what week 2 gets us.
I like how you threw in the Bjergsen win there. Just got to throw him a bone here while
if Cubby can roast him in a video, then I think we can live on broadcast too.
We can go ahead and do that. All right. But we do got to talk about something a little bit more serious, and it is our color caster Joshi's week 1 standout / overperformers here on the Academy stage, at least. And we're going to bring up that graphic to kind of show 5 names that we really think stood out in that first week. So Sword, Rose Thorn, Philip, Wixie obviously making it in there, and then we got to throw in the man Chad.
Exactly.
Right?
And of course, this isn't necessarily like the 5 best players of the week. This is specifically players that we think overperformed in what our expectations were, or rather Joshi's expectations for them. So I think it's really cool that already we're seeing a couple players make some names for themselves in that week 1, so our eyes will definitely be on these players going forward, especially Philip. I think as a top laner, he's somebody that came in, and there's a lot of questions around how he's going to perform, and week 1 already, I think definitely showing that he's got the stuff still.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a little bias Joshi's way, saying that he did that interview with Chad, and then Chad is also on his standouts thing. Just saying, Joshi. All right, no, seriously, Chad deserves it. Chad absolutely deserves it. And the fact that we got to see so much of that performance for all 5 of these players, right? And Sword coming into the support role, still having such a great performance himself. But now we do have some big news on the horizon, King.
True.
We got something big this week. All right, we got something big. We had a couple of our analysts break down some big changes that are coming this week as we do introduce our very new patch.
It is patch 12.2, which means we might be seeing some Janna come to competitive games near you. The Forgotten About Enchantress got some love from Riot as they mitigated some of her poke, taking back her range and the cooldowns on her W, but made her W more impactful, empowered her shields when you land her Q, and guess what? That tornado goes faster as well. I think that with all the enchantresses we've been seeing, there's a good chance that we could see Janna be in the forecast for some of the pick bans we have coming up.
12.2, Senna's seeing some much-needed buff. She was only rocking a 51% win rate and a 54% win rate if you chose to go with her Eclipse build. I honestly couldn't imagine anybody having a good performance on this champion, and... What? Danny got a pentakill? Are you kidding me?
So a note on that last one specifically. If you follow Twitter, a lot of the players, JJ tweeted out, can't wait to max out the CSD at 15 stats this week. So maybe some Senna. maybe we can expect some Senna gameplay. Maybe fasting Senna in the 80 carry role, because yeah, those buffs are absolutely insane.
They are. That Danny pentakill. Stuff of dreams there, that one. But we do got more stuff on the horizon here. Yes, we are introducing that new patch today, but we are also having a ton of games, Kangas, as we're going to bring up the schedule.
Yeah, a lot of action ahead of us today, everybody, and a couple big matches specifically. This is what we'll see on Stream A. So, Dignitas versus Cloud9, TSM 100 Thieves, FlyQuest versus Evil Geniuses. Now, quick thoughts on your stream, Azelle. This is one that you're going to be hosting, so what's the match you're looking forward to?
It's definitely that second one for sure. It's definitely a TSM versus 100 Thieves. It's going to be a fun one. The other ones have a lot going for them as well, but that one's the one I'm keeping my eye on.
Two big orgs, big names in the Academy scene. But then also over on Stream B, this is where I'm pretty happy I'm hosting this one, because there's some juicy ones. So if we can get that up on the screen, we can start talking about the big matchup that's on everybody's mind after Week 1's performance. And that is, of course, going to be CLG Academy versus Immortals Academy. Now, of course, Stream 2, we only have the 2 matches going on. It'll start with Golden Guardians, Team Liquid. I'm still excited for that one. I still think that one's going to be interesting to see how Team Liquid looks, because Harry is now going to be in the mid lane instead of Bjergsen. So they have their starting Academy mid laner. That, I think, will be really good for them. And then, of course, Golden Guardians still tracking how they performed, or how they're looking in Academy after playing in 2 other tournaments with Lock-In and the Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers. But Immortals undefeated, CLG looking like maybe the second best team right now. That one is going to be exciting.
It is indeed, but I'm going immediately back to my biased answer in talking about 100 Thieves versus TSM.
Okay.
Because this matchup is going to be insane. Not just because of the organizations, not just because of the commitment to development that both these organizations seem to have going for them, but this matchup itself is defining in terms of the skill that we see in Academy, right? Like, these are some of the top tier mechanical skilled players that we have in this scene, and I love to see them going at it, right? And especially Hyper versus Kenby. Oh my god, the storylines don't get better.
Yeah, you were really hot on Hyper after the Week 1 performance, and everybody's been hot on Kenby for the last, year and a half, so that one's going to be exciting. Yeah. Also, Viper versus Gamsu, that one's very exciting to look at, too, just because it's,
I'm expecting Viper to have some pluses in that category.
Okay.
We'll see.
Wow, so you're already getting predictive with it. Okay, I think your TSM bias is showing through right now. Honestly, you can look at any lane. I think that one's exciting, too. But Golden Guardians versus Team Liquid Academy is another one that I want to talk about, because that's the first match on Stream 2. So if you're on twitch.tv/academy, also pull up Faceit TV. We have both streams running concurrently. Tony Top versus Bradley is an exciting matchup. Bradley did not have the hottest performance in Week 1 in Academy. He had some cool plays, but overall, I'd say not the, he's already ready for top lane that we were hoping for. He is a mid laner changing to the top lane role. But then LCS lock-in happened over the weekend, and he got to get a stage game with the LCS team and absolutely popped off on the Akali. So now it's like, okay, so which version of Bradley are we going to get here? I'm excited to see that one. And then, of course, I think Harry, the first look at the mid laner for Team Liquid Academy. Now, I think he was one of the, if not my favorite mid laner from last year. So I have very high expectations into Ryoma, and this is going to be a rematch of the Proving Grounds Finals mid lane. So that's really cool.
It's super exciting. This next one, I'm going to have you hold off on your fandom a little bit. All right, Kangas. We are in Academy. We're taking this very seriously.
Yep. I'm wearing a tie, Lennon. You can tell.
CLGA versus IMTA. And he already highlighted a little bit to him when we were talking about the schedule. But I need you to give your unbiased opinion, right?
Okay.
I know you're a CLG super fan. You have it on your right account.
I got this.
We got to get your unbiased attention.
I got this. So the matchup that I want to highlight here is Chad versus Rosethorn. Rosethorn is a player that CLG Academy drafted around heavily, showed a lot of unique champion pools, and I know that Immortals were doing that with Concept a little bit in the top lane, but Chad is a jungler that came in and had a really strong performance in his Week 1 showing here at the Academy scene. Rosethorn with the insane Lee Sin kick flash play, front page of Reddit. Rafa with the insane call during it, got featured on LCS. Like, that moment already... That moment already is like, that's peak Academy right there, and see those kinds of plays. And I think that Rosethorn, if he's playing that Unleashed for the entire split, obviously, that's a lot of pressure to put on a player. But if we can see more plays like that, I think this jungle matchup can get really spicy really quick.
Yeah, it definitely can. we were dying in the pregame chat. Listen to that Rafa Pog moment. Like, oh my God. If you haven't seen that video, please go look at it. The news update from Cubby. Holy cow, it's amazing. We do got to shout out some socials here, Kangas.
Because where else could you have seen that video? Where else could you have seen that video?
Where else
Giselle?
could you? You got to go to this Twitter. You got to follow at Path to LCS, because this is where you get all information on anything related to the Path to LCS, including Academy, including some amateur stuff, and including Cubby's content that has the Rafa Pog moment that we all died.
Exactly. Yeah, the content's gonna keep coming too. So as this split continues, we'll have more and more to talk about, and you can be part of that action if you follow the Twitter account. But Mazel, I think that's it.
Speaking of split,
speaking of split, hey, nice one. I like that. We got to get into our own streams now and actually talk about our own matchups. So we didn't prep anything for today's one.
We didn't. You want to do like a fist bump?
Sure. Which way am I going? I'm going this way.
You going?
Oh, at the camera?
You know,
I love it.
Either way, I'm doing both sides. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I hope you enjoyed both streams. We appreciate you, and go check out Academy.
Hello and welcome to the NA Talent Update. I'm your host, Cubby, and this is where we get to recap all the fun, positive moments that happen in Amateur and Academy every week. And fortunately for me, I will never have to compare these teams to international competition. We're going to start with Amateur in the Proving Grounds OQs, where 4 teams have managed to make it to the bracket stage already, including Golden Guardians Academy and 100 Thieves Next. Many fans have had their eyes on the rank 1 15-year-old Sniper, making his competitive debut for 100 Thieves Next, and Welp, here's how those first 2 weeks have gone. Now, it's time for the big boys. Academy play is underway, and well, we're just gonna get this out of the way real quick. Hello. Did you know that Bjergsen in the LCS has a 62% win rate? However, in Academy, he has only won 1 out of his 4 games. That's a 25% win rate. Therefore, Academy must be greater than LCS. This message has been powered by results-based analysis and supported by CSD. Immortals and COG look like the 2 strongest teams in Academy, which makes their Week 2 matchup rather exciting. Both teams have made jungle look straight up broken. Chad is 4-0 on Viego, and Rosethorn has netted wins on his specialty Rek'Sai, and also this Lee Sin kick, which is our Rapog epic moment of the week.
From time and time again, as these late game stages come to fruition, Dokolo still on this right side flank. Rosethorn with a massive Warthog kick flash play!
Woo! Poggers! For one of the more fun moments of the week, we saw Darkwings getting interviewed by his teammates after Dignitas Academy kicked off their season with a 2-0 over FlyQuest Academy.
How does it feel to have a better jungler? It feels really good. Yeah. All right, nice. You feel pressure against the mid?
We have more, so we're going to introduce Darkwing's former teammate and our resident meme expert, Really Big Meme.
I got an 8 for the meme of the week this week.
It's better. Easy day in the office, huh? Okay.
Darkwing's interview with the Dig Boys. Solid memeage all around.
My bad that you got though that one time.
Spawn had some great questions to make Darkwings throw out some heat, but XU, Darkwings had the better jungler every game last split.
And that's it for week 1 of the NA Talent Update. I've been your host, Cubby, and may your next week be filled with positive gaming experiences.
Oh, well, we're live. That's always good, because I could totally hear that. Well, welcome to stream number 1. And we are here with LCS Academy, day number 2, day number 1 of week number 2. And it's going to be a fun one. Our first matchup is going to be Dig Academy taking on Cloud9 Academy. And I know, guys, it's a really hype matchup. We got some new faces there on the side of Cloud9 as well. But first, we got to talk about the Dig boys. We got to talk about this squad, because not just the funny meme content, but the gameplay on the Rift has been looking mighty fine, ain't it, Josie?
Yeah, I gotta say, like, this has been kind of the standard of what a lot of people have been looking for in terms of content around academy teams. Just the things that they're putting out even today, where they go in with the whole from dodgeball, right? All the striking Vipers having a great time. Dignitas has been looking fantastic across the board, but they also have to prove it on the Rift. It's one thing to have a great social media presence. It's another thing entirely to actually be winning. They are currently 2-2 so far this season.
And they crushed it. They looked great on that first day. Then you look at day 2, and it wasn't as pretty coming out of them. It was a little bit rougher around the edges, and you can see that they still have some work to do as a squad, but you definitely can see that they have those pop-off players. I mean, you look topside, you look at Eclipse, you look at XU. They're fun to watch. You look at Darkwings as well. Just Darkwings, don't try to fight level 1 as a collie. That's all I ask.
That's your only rule going into today? Okay.
Well, I mean,
like
it's set up a Yasuo to get fed as hell.
Only
so
rule.
Yeah, it is a big rule.
Well, I do want to go ahead and throw it to some clips that we have of Dignitas and show off a little bit of the style that they've been able to bring to the Rift so far.
They've been looking pretty good, just kind of across the board. Kind of as we said, it was a very strong day 1, not as strong of a day 2, and I think it is one of those big opportunities for them to kind of showcase how they can play a little bit more consistently and find out where their points of power actually are. And I think one of the big standouts that we had to talk about was, as Rafa always likes to call it, the Utah Engage. XU looked really, really strong in day 1 on the Draven, having so much control over when the engagements happen, and it makes it very, very straightforward when you have a guy like XU just willing to get fight started, and you just need to follow.
Making great work taking out 2 of the main damage dealers from FlyQuest. Toman Spire already gone. The Dragon still not being contested here because Dignitas are busy wiping the floor with FlyQuest.
They couldn't really do much because then you have to worry about Eclipse diving onto Tomo, diving onto Diamond in the backline, and just completely ripping them apart.
Yep, and that's what you got to look for today, especially going against C9, who on the other side has themselves pretty stacked roster. Yes, they have some influence of talent from the amateur scene for sure, and maybe seeing how much they can perform on these kinds of days, but in actuality, it's looking at the pieces that are sticking around. It's looking at the pieces that are going to be consistent, especially for this Cloud9 roster, who we know the story of coming into the Academy season.
Yeah, Copy and King are the people that we know from the previous split of Academy. They were looking quite strong before. They were a part of the roster that saw pretty consistent success coming out from Cloud9. But the big thing that we're going to have to pay attention to is how well they're actually going to be playing today. They have an entirely new roster, and so we have to look at some of the individual plays, which I feel like we're not necessarily as used to seeing. These guys have been a very supportive and kind of like a bit of a quieter style of carry for the teams of Cloud9.
More so they could set up King. They could set King up to have this great positioning so he can get fed, he can carry the team to success, and usually that's when we see this Cloud9 Academy roster really succeed. Copy is also a really good player in the mid lane because he usually plays around trying to facilitate King. And that's what I really want to see out of Cloud9 Academy going into this game, is how are they going to really build up King? How are they going to utilize Copy to rotate around the map and try to make this bot lane be the true carry force we have seen?
Yeah, we've seen, obviously, the meta is revolving around this ADC position, it feels like right now, and having King down there feels pretty good for Cloud9 themselves. But that's what I want to talk about, the two spotlights for both these teams, right? We've already alluded around, we've already tiptoed around the subject, but Eclipse for Dignitas Academy and King for Cloud9 Academy, because these are the standouts that we really want to focus on today. King himself having those carry performances on the ADCs, being able to be a force to be reckoned with in the bot lane, where I feel like we have a pretty stacked bot lane talent pool in Academy, and Eclipse on the other side having an incredible performance in week number 1 and being able to pull off a little bit of a namesake there as well.
Yeah, even with King having not the greatest start coming into this Academy
Absolutely.
season, we also do have to note that he was easily one of the top 80 carries in 2021, both spring and summer. He was looking phenomenal, and a lot of people were asking, like, when is this guy going to have a chance to move up? But now we have a lot of other Academy talent that has risen to the surface, and King's going to have to showcase that even with a new roster, he has what it takes to continue pushing it forward. And the thing that I really like watching about typically King and Isles when he comes back is their ability to consistently control the actual game and the actual laning phase. With Keaton coming in, I think they still have opportunities to do that going up against Cloud9, going up against Dignitas, but they are still going to have to prove themselves up against both Spawn and JJ, who are also very
pretty scary, especially when you're looking at the up and coming of Spawn and the meshing with
Still
JJ. I think that's super important, and being able to kind of pull that through together. And so the other one for me, I guess, that we've talked about so much, and I hate to continue to go back to him, but XU for Dignitas. Like, I feel like it's so integral for this guy to get off the ground, looking at those early skirmish junglers and being able to facilitate around his team. That, yes, we've highlighted Eclipse, yes, we've highlighted King, but for Dignitas, I feel like there's a second spotlight there, and it's definitely on XU.
Oh, for sure. I agree with that, just because I look at how Dignitas has played. I mean, even look at the 2 losses that they had against Golden Guardians on day 2. XU was the one setting up a lot of these lanes. He was making sure he's playing aggressively. There's the level 1 5-man top lane where they just bullied poor Tony Top the whole time. They tried to make sure that he was going to be far behind, so that way Eclipse was going to be able... No, I'm sorry, by the way, the 5-man was against Cloud9. Lawrence was the one who got that. Dignitas still played really aggressively around Tony Top in the top lane. So that way Tony couldn't do much with Renekton, even with Jax in to that Gwen, because they made sure Eclipse was always going to be fine. He was always going to try to carry, because XE was always in his pocket.
I kind of want to talk on that a little bit as well. You touched on Eclipse coming through, and you already mentioned how strong of a flanker he was yesterday, but we also saw him on 3 games of Gwen and 1 of Gragas, where the Gwen was kind of necessary to actually go for a lot of these flanks. The Gragas could go a little bit more straightforward. I'm curious what version of Eclipse we're going to get today.
We are ready to send it off to the draft here pretty soon, so I'm going to let you guys take it away into game number 1.
Well, thank you, Lennon. It's always good having you around, but I'm excited to start off this day 1 of week 2. We got Dignitas against Cloud9, but I do kind of want to touch on Cloud9 and how they are still playing with a lot of their subs. Lawrence, Frostforce, Keaton, all still playing for this Academy roster. And then you have Dignitas. We've seen the highs and we've seen the lows of, and it's only week 2 so far. And I want to see how they go against this kind of sub roster of Cloud9 if they can play to the highs we've seen already.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to look at that a little bit, right, Magical? Because I'm somebody who looks at it, I kind of have the pretty standard get-up where, we kind of have our basic dynamic going on in just our outfits today, right? I kind of look like the preppy kid from high school. You got the biker gang who showed up at the 5 minutes after class. Well, and what are you going to do about it, Teach? So kind of tell me, what do you think these amateur players are actually going to do?
Let's be honest, is about 5 minutes before class started, because that's why I'm late, is that Keaton's going to get a lot of bans aimed towards him. We've seen that already happen last week, and a lot of his enchanters that he normally tends to play getting banned. But we are on a new patch. Janna got adjusted. I wouldn't necessarily say if it was a buff or a nerf, but we've seen just over in the LCK, Janna's already been played. And it's not just any Janna. It's Glacial Augment Janna that everyone is complaining about, and we're already seeing on the PvE getting touched on, probably going to be nerfed going into patch 12.3.
Probably. I mean, it's so strong at this point that we have also noted that players like Lorlo, who have been playing in Academy for a long time as well, playing it with Smite up in the top lane and still seeing some decent success with it. So Keaton, definitely one of these people who are willing to play it. JJ, somebody that has also had a lot of success on Enchanters in the past, and I think it's going to be really pushing quite hard in order to make sure all of their AD carries look good.
Stuff resolved, so stick around. We'll be right back. Going back into it, Josh, we got to talk about Dignitas Academy, Cloud9 Academy, especially because we are hyped about this champion select. We need to see how this is really going to revolve around Keetong or not.
Yeah, there's a lot of big champions that we're going to have to pay attention to, right? And it is something that with Keetong, Frostforce, and Lawrence coming in a little bit later on than a lot of these players, they're going to have to be, they're the big unknowns that a lot of people are going to be looking towards. And as we actually jump into champion select here,
like
let's kind of take a look at what we've actually seen from a lot of these
teams
players.
Where they try to see if they can ban out Keetong in the bot lane. But I also want to kind of look at how Dignitas has been through most of the champion selects and how teams have really been trying to see what they can take away from Dig. I mean, one of the big things I'm looking towards is XU, especially if you give something like Lee Sin that we've been seeing dominate the meta so far, and whether or not that's actually going to be let through with a lot of the bans we expect to go onto these enchanters.
Yeah, and you're kind of seeing it addressed immediately too, right, Magical? You were saying a lot of bans are going to be targeted towards Keetong. We already have the Karma, the Yuumi. We also saw him play a couple of games of Lulu last week. And this is something that's going to be very straightforward. Now, the one standout that a lot of people are talking about at the beginning of the day that is currently not banned is the Janna, right? And that's something that we can kind of expect is going to be in Keetong's roster just because of all the other enchanters he's going to play. But Dig are kind of daring him to pick it up and going to be grabbing the Jinx for himself
Jinx
instead.
Was picked up immediately, but that Lee Sin that I had talked about, that I expect XU to actually want to play against Frostforce Xin Zhao, has been left open still. The Twisted Fate, of course, has to be banned. We know that Copy can play that well, but so can Darkwing's, the roaming capabilities that it has. You cannot let that just slide through the draft. But Lee Sin is the big one that I'm looking at and I'm expecting to see XU pilot.
It makes a lot of sense, right? We've definitely seen XU play that quite a lot in the past, and we also have the Lulu coming through right now,
Karma,
coming
Yuumi,
in for
Senna
Keetong.
banned away by Dignitas. Lulu was the other one that we saw pretty much that big ban that we expected. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Keetong is going to play this and what they want to grab for King. Because you have a Felios that's still left open. You've got this Jinx on the other side for spawn, and I'm kind of expecting to see probably more of an engaged type of support play coming in. There it is. We're actually going to see that it is Nautilus picked up by JJ, with Darkwing still going on to Victor, despite the fact that we actually had Corki banned by Cloud9. Of course, you don't have to have the Corki into Victor matchup, and usually if you want to play that, the Victor, the level 1 power that he has is pretty massive, and he's able to usually bully around a Corki, but it's always the late game scaling. And I want to see how Dignitas QNTMPAY are going to do with this Victor, especially because we do see it is that Aphelios, as I alluded to. That was a possibility for King. The Lulu and Aphelios, difficult lane to really deal with. Of course, when you have something like Nautilus, it does make your life a little bit easier. And also, if you wonder why I'm just talking a bunch, it's because we're still trying to fix some of the issues on our end. Just be patient with us. We're hopefully going to get Josh back in just a minute. As we get to the second part of the bans, we see that Lee Sin is the first one taken away by Cloud9.
All right, it sounds like we are finally coming back. Thanks for carrying us through that, Magical. We do see, as you said, some very standard stuff coming out from both sides, right? The Aphelios is going to be going over to King, but the Victor also coming through on the other side. And, you know, I know, Magical, typically you're not a big fan of these very stock standard mid laners that end up coming through, but you gotta admit that Darkwings is pretty good at it.
Yes, and I'm okay with Victor when it's not against Corki. I just don't want
just one of the two?
It's mostly I just don't want to see Corki Victor. That's it. I just don't want to see them. So if it's one of the two, it's fine. I'll give it a pass. It's only half as bad, right? So it's tolerable.
Yeah.
But if it's both of them, that's where I'm just like, no. Reset the bans, reset the picks. We got to run this back. No, we're not dealing with this. But here, it's fine. It looks pretty good. Darkwings is really good on the champion. I'm looking towards the second wave of bans. Double up on the jungle bans towards XU because they didn't grab the Lee Sin when I expected them to.
It's something that we kind of have to ask what else is going to be in XU's pool. A lot of the champions that we know he's played a lot historically are already banned, right? The Trundle. The Viego is still available, and it's probably like the natural thing that you're going to be seeing a lot of people go to, just because it is one of the strongest players on the roster. Excuse me, one of the strongest champions in the roster at the moment. And with all these champions coming through with great natural abilities that are not quite as reliant on their ultimates, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what XU started going towards. And the Poppy coming through for Eclipse. I hear those gas coming through. I know this is one of the magical specials.
Is it for Eclipse or is it for XU? That's actually something we have to look at here and what you want to play it into. It can be a jungler. It can easily go into XU's hands, and since we see it's an Akali on the other side, we don't necessarily know where that's going into. We don't know if it's going to be for Lawrence. We don't know if it's going to be for Copy, and with that Gragas pick, it is going to be XU on Poppy.
Well, I mean, that is true. It is very likely that that is going to be happening because Eclipse did actually play the Gragas last week, and we've seen how strong of a blind pick this can be up in the top lane. It is currently Cubby's favorite, and Eclipse looked pretty decent on it, but the Gwen coming through as well means that there are a lot of dashes for this Poppy to actually stop, but both of these champions can be played in both roles currently, and while they're currently hovering it over for XU, and we know he's one of the big go buttons for this team, they still have 25 seconds to figure it out.
Yeah, but Josh, ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a Gragas jungle?
In my solo queue games last night, actually.
So let me rephrase that. When have you seen actually good players play it in any game?
Okay. It's been a little longer than that, I will admit. The Gragas is going to typically be a top laner in this day and age, and the XU Poppy special coming through, and I have to say, I'm really liking this look for XU right now. The biggest thing that he needs to do is he needs to be able to get fights started and prevent the counterattack onto his own backline. And that's currently coming from Xin Zhao and Akali and Gwen. And if you just have a way to stop all of their dashes, ground them, and knock them to the floor, it becomes super, super dangerous for any member of Cloud9 to try and actually hit Dark.
See, that's what I was even going to mention, is you grab this Gwen after you saw the Poppy pick. That's dash there, dash on Xin Zhao, dash on Akali. Poppy neutralizes a lot of that. Of course, you know, there's only that small window she really has to do so. But that's still a window that you can utilize when you have a Victor, when you have a Jinx, the engage potential of a Nautilus, or even the pick potential of a Gragas with a really good explosive cask.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be very exciting. There is a small thing that we are seeing from XU. He is opting to go with the phase rush. I know you can't see it yet, chat, but just trust me. We have the ability to see into the future, which means that not only is he going to be very strong in his ability to stop any engage coming through, but he's also going to be very fast moving around these fights, making sure that he can get into position and put some threat onto King and Keaton.
Well, we have now loaded up onto the Rift. It is week 2, day 1. Dignitas Academy, Cloud9 Academy, starting us off hot with XU grabbing the Poppy jungle. I'm so excited to see how this is going to perform, especially into Cloud9 Academy. We still have to highlight the fact Lawrence, Frost Forest, Keaton, these subs for Cloud9 Academy still playing into week 2. And with the fact that you got some of these comfort champs for the side of Cloud9, such as Keaton on Lulu, you know, this actually might be a far more even match than it might seem on paper.
Yeah, and I know there's been a recent discourse on Twitter where people are asking, like, how strong is Nautilus? And I feel like in these kind of situations, the answer is very strong, right? You just need somebody to stand in front. You don't necessarily need them to do a whole lot more other than create some crowd control and a zone of denial for the members of Cloud9 to actually try and walk through. Now, the big thing that they're going to have to pay attention to is Copy. Typically not as strong of a carry player historically. We've seen him have a lot of success on things like the set. That is the first thing that comes to mind for me, that we saw a ton of play in the mid lane for Cloud9 last year. And the Akali is a little bit newer, so I'm curious if this is going to be the Turbo Chem Tank build that we've been seeing very popular and Sniper had a lot of success with, or if he's going to go with a bit more traditional with the Protobell or the Night Harvester.
Curious to see that as well. It's funny that you say set for Copy. When I think Copy, I think Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate is the big one for me. I always think of as bot lane. JJ does get a nice pull onto King, but unfortunately, a lot more damage has been thrust back and forth from both sides. No one really taking anything that's probably going to stick for any meaningful amount of time.
Yeah, I also want to point out one small thing here that both supports are actually doing. We are noticing that they are continuing to save these Relic Shield procs. If you haven't figured this out yet, you don't usually want to use your first Relic Shield on the first wave. You want to wait for the second wave in order to try and guarantee yourself level 2. And JJ does that a little bit better. There's a large wave coming through, but because they've overshoved it, King and Keatong should be able to fairly safely take this under their turret.
Exactly. And I even think right here, doesn't really matter. It's Aphelios and Lulu. The reason I want to bring this up is that is a safe lane. You try to engage early on, it doesn't really matter because all they're going to do is exactly as you see. You hold on to the Relic Shield to heal up a little bit so any of that damage that you did, mitigated. Plus, they're just trying to scale up anyway, so they're just trying to farm up safely. They're not really looking for any actual fight. They're not looking for those skirmishes like a Nautilus would.
Yeah, and it's not very common as well this early on being able to see a successful cheater recall come off in the bottom lane, right? You crash the third wave underneath the turret, the enemy lane is pinned there, they can't move, they can't do anything, and they're going to be able to get Jinx to go back and buy a call of their own. We also see an opportunity for a cheater recall in the mid lane by Darkwings, but he's going to choose to stay on the map instead, which does a couple of things, right? It, in theory, creates a lot of pressure so they can start fighting for these Scuttle Crabs, but in practice this time, it kind of leaves him vulnerable to a gank. Luckily for him, Frost Forest is instead more interested in farming the top side of his map than coming towards the mid lane.
And at the moment, it's allowing a little bit of a reprieve for XU to invade, get a bit of vision, try to see if you can control Frost Forest, since the spot lane is so safe. You got the cheater recall out of spawn, and even with that, they still have the lane frozen. They still have it pretty far pushed up. You were a little worried there, but I wasn't, because look where Darkwings is. He's pretty close by, could easily move up. And if they threaten to dive on a copy, it would be risky at this point since there's just not that much mana in Darkwing's pocket.
What is this? XU. He's still sticking around here. Now, they actually know that he's here. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a quick warded ping that came out. Yeah, they definitely saw that the ward went down. So they have a good idea that XU could be in this quadrant of the jungle. And he's just sticking around waiting. Oh my gosh, the ward coming through from JJ over the wall doesn't get seen because the ward just died for Cloud9.
Just spawns there. It is going to get the vision with Wind Becomes Lightning. Out of Frost Force, he dives in.
He went in.
Nearby, so is Spawn. Waiting for the traps, but nobody's placing it. It's going to be a control ward instead, getting a lot of damage from JJ on a Frost Force, but XU's taking way more instead. They get the flash in. It's going to be first blood for Frost Force. Flash away. Vaughn's still alive. They've got vision on him, but he doesn't have much mana. Neither does Darkwing, so they have to just completely bail.
And the thing you called out earlier, Magical, with the ability for Lulu to just shut down a lot of fights with the polymorph really ends up coming true. XU couldn't really do anything because they were effectively stunned during that entire time. And despite all of the pressure that Dignitas have created on the bottom side, it's actually going to be Cloud9 that are fighting themselves with a little bit of reward. All this vision effectively coming to
Also,
nothing.
Props to Frost Force, the patient, to wait for that audacious charge until after you had the steadfast presence from XU gone. You waited it out, knew that he had plenty of time, and then he went for the engage. Then they had Keatong nearby with the polymorph.
Here we go, round two.
Round two still here. Frost Force now, the one who is invading, taking a lot of damage coming in from XU, but they're looking to see if they can turn this around. Copy was nearby, but instead of going for anything further, they'll just take that vision out.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of an unsurety coming through from Dignitas, and this is something that I was talking a lot about last week, Magical, where you need to make sure all of your players are on the same page, and Dignitas are a little bit more disjointed than Cloud9 are at the moment. We saw the difference between XU launching Frost Forest forward while JJ was going for the hook, and it's these small things that, while individually they might not make a big difference, over the course of a game when the pattern becomes much more important around these dragons or in objectives, becomes more important.
Scorpy looks to see if he can all in. Darkwings has Frost Force nearby, dives back
Good
in,
dodge.
Getting a lot of damage to the flash away, but the flash will fall out. Pin the kill for Copy.
Copy coming through. We asked if he was going to be a good carry player, Magical, and right now he's already showing at level 6, able to get the kill. Darkwings even dodged the ultimate, and Copy was able to pick it up with the help of Frost Forest. And so far, I gotta say, I was not necessarily expecting a whole lot coming in from Frost Forest, but he is having a fantastic game in Game 1 of Week 2.
Started off a little slow there, but after he got that full clear, was able to pick up that pickaxe, and then a greedy invade from XU. Things have been looking great for the side of Frost Forest, but we got to see this continue. It's only 7 minutes into the game, still very, very early, and you have a Jinx on your side. You have a Victor on your side. These are two champions that are going to do well as they get more items, plus you have the call that was picked up by Spawn that you had pointed out from that cheater recall, and that's going to give a big spike over to the side of Dignitas. So we got to see Cloud9 continue this pressure, continue to see how much more they can gain over Dignitas before they're able to finish these items.
So what we'd like to see from them then is actually finding ways to snowball it. And the easiest way to get big leads early on in the game is to force fights around objectives. You force the other team to come fight you while you are the one who is actually stronger. And we also see that right now, Cloud9 have retaken a lot of control of the bottom side river than they had before. So an early dragon would not be super remiss. Copy already starting to move down, potentially going to be getting some vision, but could be looking for a dive bottom lane, even if Frostforce doesn't come. Instead, going to be hovering around, trying to create a little bit of pressure, just dipping into Fog of War. Unfortunately, getting spotted means that he's not going to be able to have a successful
See, that's
run.
something we didn't really get to talk about. You look at these side lanes for the side of Dignitas. Agragas and Jinx Nautilus. Not really the easiest lanes to dive for Cloud9, are they?
No, it's pretty difficult with like how much crowd control they have, right? We already talked about Nautilus doesn't necessarily need to do a whole lot more other than create a buffer zone for characters like Jinx, and that is exactly what they have available to them right now if they ever try and dive in the bottom lane. And if Poppy is there, suddenly the dive quickly turns disastrous because it becomes so much more difficult to leave. Frostforce, though, on the same time, going for this, finally going to be clearing out the ward, but he's taking a lot of damage trying to
he has, but they do have the pressure from top and mid. You can see that there's an attempted all-in from Copy just to force out Darkwings, but still, Frostforce took too much damage. They saw that the bot lane had roamed up for Dignitas, so he had to fail completely, but they don't want to just let it go. It's still down to 50%, and Dignitas are holding this on.
Yeah, we also saw multiple ultimates are down from Dignitas, right? Darkwings doesn't have the Chaos Storm. Spawn used the Mega Death Rocket in exchange for Copy's Flash. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a Rift Herald coming through for Dignitas, right? At the very beginning, we said they're going to need to be the ones who are going to try and take these fights, and they find another one.
Nice choppers. Getting a lot of damage on a King. He takes a turret shot the entire time, too. But he's fine. He's going to be able to hold his own, stand his ground. Got the red gun to heal up just a little bit.
Okay, but there we go, right? Magical. We have to touch on the fact that we were saying Cloud9 are the ones who are going to need to be able to force these fights around the map. And they're the ones who are actually slow to actually respond to the play. The only person who tried to move at all was Lawrence up on the top lane, and instead they're going to be spending time on the bottom side. But King getting caught.
The flash is up though. Flash away. They got heal if they need to. Keetong had to flash himself, getting a lot of damage back onto JJ. No mana to speak of, so they can chase him down and make sure Dignitas' gank does not work.
Wow. I mean, didn't we say that it was going to be kind of difficult for the members of Dignitas to engage onto Keetong's Lulu? Do you remember saying that, Magical?
I do remember saying that.
Do you feel like we've been rewarded a little bit for making that prediction earlier? Big brain. Well, that's what happens, right? It's so difficult to do anything. JJ, unfortunately, with the hook onto the minion means that there's no opportunities for them to continue going for this fight. At the same time, though, Magical, you were the one who was really highlighting Eclipse earlier. He seems to be having a bit of a rough time up in this top lane.
He does, but it is the tank Gragas build we're seeing, right? So we look at this, and we look at how he's playing while he's down in CS against Lawrence. I don't know if that's necessarily the worst thing, but I do need to see him leave this lane, try to see what he can impact outside of that lane, because Lawrence is perfectly fine this matchup. Hasn't even completed that Rift Maker, and we've seen Gwen late game, what Gwen does, and how much absurd damage this champion can deal.
Oh yeah, the fact that they're doing true damage on basically every auto attack and everything that they can do does a lot of work against these tanks up like Gragas. But the reason why this is Cubby's favorite blind pick in the meta right now is just because you're going to be useful anyway, right? The Explosive Cask doesn't really care what kind of build you go for. It does decent damage, and it also has a huge displacement. So even though Eclipse is struggling a little bit, we already know this matchup isn't the easiest thing in the world for Gragas, and as you said, not super worried yet. We will have to monitor it as the game goes on to see if it continues to get worse or if he's going to be holding steady at about minus 20 CS, which is totally okay.
The whole time we were talking about the top lane and the bot lane, XU had plopped down the eye of the Rift Herald. Didn't fully get the turret though. Was able to get a lot of plates over for the side of Dignitas, but with that not falling, you can see the Cloud9 on the Dragon, looking for it. Nice dodge away from Frostforce, but XU's got to deal with Copy on top of him. Going to be able to put the steadfast person, will be alive, but it's going to be the Dragon secured by Cloud9.
I want to give props to both these junglers, though, as we see that, Cloud9 does pick up the dragon. But Frost Forest and XU have been moving basically in sync almost this entire game. Now, XU looking to find his way onto Keaton.
Trying to see if he can flash into it. He's getting a lot of damage, but Frost Forest was there protecting that Lulu the entire time. The Dredge line going to be able to pull in a fight continuing. Frost Forest, though, he'll be fine. He's going to be able to disengage for now.
Great disengage tools coming out from the side of Cloud9. And even there, we see XU and Frost Forest standing right next to each other. And XU continuing to stick around, but going to be going for the back finally. But every single time Frost Forest moves over to an objective, XU is there almost immediately after. Every time Frost Forest is going for a gank, XU is there almost immediately after. And they're kind of 50-50 right now as to which one actually comes out ahead. Frost Forest going towards the blue buff, and you already see XU is on his way, but I don't think he's going to get there in time.
You can see how difficult it is for Eclipse to actually deal with Lawrence, since he was able to pretty easily just proxy the wave there against the Scroggins, who's still waiting to scale up, waiting for that Thimble Winter. You can see with the Tear of the Goddess in the inventory, hasn't even gotten the Mythic. Well, Lawrence, he's been perfectly content to just farm it away. With this recall, I'm expecting that Riftmaker to be finished.
Yeah, and hey, Copy goes in.
Does go in. It's going to be the Chaos Storm as well, but XU nearby scares off Copy to not fully engage.
The biggest thing about the changes to Akali Araya is it's all about actually landing that E. It's where so much of your damage in your combo is there, and if you don't land that, it's basically impossible to actually get the XQ from the ultimate, unless you are obscenely fed. But here, XU, Frost Forest, again, finding each other on the map. XU got spotted out by a ward in the Pixel and was distracted by Copy going all in on Darkwings earlier, so XU just gonna have to Hex Flash over this wall.
You know, it's funny, just seeing how often both these junglers are trying to invade one another, trying to get the upper hand. But every time, it seems like it's actually favoring the side of Cloud9, even if the gold lead is minuscule. It's not really that big for either side. With the plates now falling, there was a lot that was taken despite not getting the Rift Herald by Cloud9 over that of Dignitas.
And typically, when you're the one who's getting the Rift Herald, it usually comes at a pretty large advantage, right? You're usually able to get this first turret, get a lot of plates. But we're also kind of going back to when we said that we were hoping Cloud9 were going to be the ones who were forcing a lot of objectives. King and Qtong actually stayed in the bottom lane. Something very typical of Team Liquid's Yon, and just took 2 plates already.
Yeah.
So they basically evened out a lot of what that Rift Herald was supposed to do. But now Dignitas are going to be the ones who are taking control. They're coming behind here. I don't know if they know XU's here. They just know that the
doesn't have flash, though. It's almost about to come off a cooldown, but they're just making sure they can put everything into King, but it's going to be the Wild Growth. Here's the Rocket doing a little bit of damage to King, but he's getting a lot back with the red guns helping him out. Trying to see if they can turn it around to the flash coming in, but it's going to be a heal. Why'd you go back in? He's got enough damage. Not going to get the zap. He's going to get the kill on XU. JJ Spawn trying to chase this down, but look at Copy and Frost Force on the other side. The flash coming in from JJ. Getting a lot of damage on the King, but it's still alive. The Dredge line finally getting the 2 kills for the bot lane, but at what cost?
Oh my gosh, everything just blows up here, Magical, and Copy and Frost Forest are the ones who become the big winners in that whole fight. Lawrence and Eclipse still scuffling up here in the top lane, but Magical, I don't know if you know this about me, but I have 2 favorite calls in League of Legends in terms of communications. The first one is, they can't heal me. Right, I'm playing the Mundo, I'm playing some big tank like a Sign, and you can't do anything. My second favorite is, they can't kill you. I'm playing something like the Lulu, and we saw that exact thing come through for a long period during that time. Qtong told King, don't worry about it, my cooldowns are up, I got you, you can go forward in this fight. And for the first half of it, looked really good, right? King was able to actually find the kill, and that just means that they were able to get the kill onto Aphelios, the most valuable member to have gold on in this game.
4-4-2, favoring the side of Cloud9. Huge play. As we look at this replay, just keep in mind how long King lives for.
And it only gets harder and harder, right? We said that there's a lot of tools on the side of Dignitas to prevent your backline from going down. A lot of those tools kind of have a little bit of trouble getting onto King. You have red-white, and we saw how powerful they were and how close they were to actually getting out here. They expected the rest of their members were going to get there just a little bit faster. They just weren't there. They end up going down, but they get the kills in return.
Faster? That felt like ages that they were surviving for. I think that the fact that they were even able to turn it around despite dying was a huge play from Cloud9. I love that play, and even here, you can see Copy easily getting out of dodge.
getting out as well. Now, we also have a Dragon coming up very soon, Magical, and the fact that we still have a lot of ultimates and a lot of flashes on both sides means that we're going to see both these teams fight at full strength.
XU flashing over the wall because he was scared.
Okay, well, -1.
That was looking risky. It makes sense that he wanted to flash away, but as you were talking about, Josh, we could see the Dragon has spawned up. Cloud9 already making sure they can set up all 5 members around the objective.
But we are getting this traded out at the same time. You also have Darkwings up in the top lane, smashing down that turret. So yes, there are 2 Dragons currently in the inventory of Cloud9, but they are giving up for gold. And this is a typical trade that we used to see a long time ago. And I want to say a long time ago, it's last year. It's not that long ago. Where you just trade Dragons for turrets, and your goal is to actually get a gold lead. And so, Magical, we're kind of coming to the point of the game where both backlines are kind of going to be struggling to hit, right? It's very difficult for Victor and Jinx to really deal with the double zones of exclusion created by Xin and Gwen. And on the other side, King, he can hit a lot of these frontliners, but he's almost never going to be able to get in range of Darkwings or Spawn. And it really comes down to which of these teams is going to be stronger. Are their Dragons worth the gold that they're giving up?
Well, I'm looking at the inventories, the items built up by both teams. That Riftmaker has been completed by Lawrence. And to answer your earlier question, Compy is going for the damage build, not going for the Chem Tech build that we've been seeing sometimes out of Akali players.
Does that make you happy or sad?
You know, honestly, indifferent. It's one of those things where if it was just pure tank from an Akali, I'd be more upset. But the fact that she still does an absurd amount of damage, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Either or. Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay, Eclipse finding Frost Forest. That was a very Eclipse move. Just saying, bonk.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a
yeah. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do about it?
The thing is, he was just trying to help out Spawn, crash that minion wave into the turret. Was hoping to deny that from King, but King's just like, yep, num. Gonna eat all that up, and I'll be perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine indeed, and ultimately, we're still kind of waiting right now, Magical. We don't have a Rift Herald to play for. It doesn't look like it's going to... we're not going to get another one because it's already in XU's pockets, right? You know, during the whole kerfuffle around like the Dragon, XU was able to pick that up. But the big question we have now is, how are teams going to start creating some pressure for the upcoming Baron? Because we kind of get the play to flip towards the top side of the map. And rechecking back in on the story we were looking at earlier, where Eclipse was about 20 CS down on Lawrence, still remains true about 10 minutes later, right? Both of these guys just kind of holding in a very even pattern, waiting for opportunities to scale into the game. And as we said last time, Eclipse was really focused on finding a lot of these flanks in order to create pressure on the other team. On this Gragas, one of the best flankers in the game.
This mid turret is really low. Hex Flash was threatened by XU, but he goes backwards onto Frost Force. Got to be careful though. The zoom with the polymorph on top of him as well. They got Copy nearby. They're just going to be able to get a little bit of a slow on top of him. And instead of even using the Rift Herald just now, they're just going to recall. They've got the turret. They got the structure they need to, but the TP top lane, it's going to be a TP trying to get away. Can he get out of there? He's going to be following up. No Copy! He's going the wrong way! Dashing in to get the kill! Fly, baby, fly! Copy now. Can you get out of this one? No. Good, sad, fast pressing to come in to make sure they can deny it. The flash go, no!
Oh, no!
You gave Copy an escape, guys! No way!
Oh my god, Magical. I can't believe it. Now Frostfur is going to have to flash this, right?
Guess what? Copy's not done. He's still nearby. He doesn't have that perfect execution nor the flash.
They're leaving.
They got to bail on this one. Look who's nearby. They had the flank that was a potential coming in from Lawrence, so they had to bail completely.
That was one of the funniest sequences I've seen in Academy in the past year at least. We'll come back to it, I'm sure. That's a replay that you're going to see on Twitter here any moment now. But at the end of the day, all it was a couple of teleports being used and a single kill going over to Cloud9. So it's very flashy, but they don't even pick up the turret. They aren't able to start the Baron, and with the Dragon not having spawned yet, there's not a whole lot that Cloud9 can actually do with it. It required an entire team effort to come make sure that Frost Force stayed alive at the end of it, and only now are we seeing the tempo advantage of having somebody dead for 30 seconds actually come to fruition as Copy going to be able to crash a large wave. It might be enough to take the turret.
I just want to watch Copy flying. Just, oh, no, where'd he go? Where'd he go?
Oh.
Where is he?
Oh,
there
where
he
is he? There he is.
See, it's hard to keep up with him because he just went,
peekaboo. It's okay. We're still part of the Leche fandom over here.
Hey, I don't blame him. That was hard to keep up. He literally flew. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen an Akali have that happen to them. But, man, it's always fun to watch.
It's always fun, but the other thing that we gotta have a lot of fun watching is this upcoming dragon fight. I made a quick video on Twitter about this recently, Magical. Control of choke points and actually being in the map first. We're seeing that Dignitas getting this mid lane priority. They're going to be pushing this out, but it's going to be at the cost of giving ground over to Copy.
Copy's on the other side. He's looking for a flank. Have they spotted him out just yet? They might not have. Crossforce took a lot of damage that entire time. Now they have definitely spotted him. Now they definitely know where Copy's at, but they know that he's looking for that flank, looking to see if they can get on to spawn. It's going to be Eclipse who's making sure to scare him off for now. Crossforce still pretty low. It's a fight around the dragon. You don't want to just give this up easily if you're Dignitas, because that would put soul point potential in Cloud9's hands.
Yeah. Let's go. The Hex
Wait
Gates.
a minute. Guess who it is? It's Copy. The engage coming in. Looking for Frostforce. Taking a lot of damage. Shut down by Darkwings. Looking for more. Trying to see if Copy can get in. That's a lot of low health bars on the side of Dignitas. The flash away coming in from Darkwings to be able to survive. They got a kill, but there's a double kill coming in from Copy. Trying to flip in. He's going golden to be able to survive. Spawn's excited. They're trying to see what they can get outside of that, but they are now focused on top of him. Getting a lot of damage. Polymorph, but it's Darkwings who's going to get the attention coming in from Copy with the shield on top of him, but it's not going to be enough. Trying to see if he can get at least a gravity field. XQ's taking it low. They've got the kills. King, you got no mana. He's running for the hills, but Spawn is chasing him down. One more auto. It's the ace for Dignitas.
An incredibly messy fight coming out, Magical, and it's going to result in Dignitas putting a stop to Cloud9's dragon stacking. They're able to find that. They're able to get the first Hextech dragon for themselves, and God, I can't wait to look at this again because the geography of the fight all over the place. Copy removing himself from the first half of the fight suddenly became incredibly dangerous for the members of Cloud9. But at the end of the day, it's still just a small lead coming through for Dignitas. They've evened themselves up a little bit on Dragons, and now they're going to be the ones who are first on the map to start threatening for the
Small lead, but who got the gold is the big question. All that gold was piled into Spawn. 3, 1, and 4 now on this Jinx.
Spawn looking quite good across the map so far, and finally we get a replay to look at this. So the big thing, I've been looking for good usage of these Hex Gates for a long time. This, unfortunately, was not it. You put yourself so far away, and the only thing that prevents this from being a total wipe in favor of Dignitas is the fact that Eclipse just gets a little too short with his engage. He wasn't able to find his way directly in, but then after that, once things have kind of settled down, we see the benefit of Spawn's extra range in this game. Playing the Jinx just means that he can hit and nobody can touch him whatsoever. He has a red buff, so he just slows them down and is able to chase down all the members of Cloud9 one by one, giving Dignitas a very clean team fight.
Huge swing for Dignitas. Getting the dragon to deny at least the 3 dragon potential out of Cloud9, getting themselves that first dragon of the game. Also, you can see how they're able to translate that to the top half of the map, how they've been able to move up towards this Baron and set up a lot of vision control on this quadrant of the map.
Yeah, we're seeing the Hex Sage come through. Keaton, got to be careful. Use JJ.
Looking for it, though. Doesn't realize Frostforce is nearby. Doesn't want to engage without that full vision control. They saw that the control ward was placed down by the side of Cloud9, but instead, it will be an easy Tier 2 turret taken by Dignitas.
The only question that Dignitas currently has to answer for a little while is who is going to be dealing with Akali. Copy currently 4-1 on the other side of the map, doing a fantastic job on a different style than I'm used to seeing him on. Creating a lot of pressure right now, actually starting to take down this turret. You know, he's not the best turret taker, but just the speed with which he is able to move around the map makes him incredibly dangerous. And Eclipse, being the one to come answer him, means that Eclipse is basically never going to die in this side lane, but it is going to be very difficult for him to create pressure all on his own, going against Copy, who is himself a very slippery character.
Hard to contend against. It's hard to really see how you're going to do that as either of them, Gragas or Akali. Both of them kind of just want to clear out the minion wave. They have TP available for both of them. But at the moment, it is just both teams trying to see how much control they can get before the next objective spawn. We have a little bit of time, a little bit of a reprieve, because I doubt we're going to see any team actually try to go for the Hail Mary play around this Baron, especially when it's so even in gold. 1,000 now, favoring the side of Dignitas.
Well, if one team gets enough vision control, they might be able to go for it, but we also see that Cloud9's vision control is currently all spent trying to make sure that they don't lose more than they feel like they already have, right? You have 3 vision wards in the top quadrant of the jungle, but when you don't have to run to defend them. It's very easy for Dignitas to do this and just walk in and create more control on the map. Frost Forest gives them another like little W. Wind becomes lightning, but that's not going to be enough to save that ward. And Cloud9, they lose too much vision control here. Dignitas might feel confident enough to start up
not
there.
Yet. Not when you have Lawrence TP.
Not yet.
You can easily flank them. You got to be careful, and especially with the mid lane going towards Cloud9, where they're pushing it back, forcing Dignitas into their hands.
Okay, well, Dignitas just going to be clearing this out. Eclipse now off in the side lane again. Still 20 CS between these two guys.
Good on Eclipse, you know. You were kind of worried. You're like, all right, how's he going to do? Well, he's holding his own, and he's doing fine. Yeah, it's confidence, and with that, they are starting the Baron. I'm surprised to see that. The TP is available for Lawrence if they want to go for it, but oh no, Keaton had just backed. This is going to be risky. Okay, Dignitas doesn't realize it, so they actually peel off of the Baron, not wanting to fully commit for a fight.
Well, they mostly just want to pull people off to the other side of the map, right? This is a play where you just kind of ask the members of Cloud9 to, like, hey, could you, like, leave the bottom river for us real quick so that we can walk in there? And the answer is, yeah, Cloud9 kind of have to oblige them, but it comes at a lot of HP taken off of XU, who is one of the mini tanks on the side of Dignitas that are super important. Their ability to create space for Spawn and Darkwings. And once again, Dignitas first to the punch are going to control a lot of these choke points. Becomes super dangerous for Cloud9 to ever walk in.
I'm looking at the items and how this is going to work for the incoming fight soon. You have 3 items for the side of Darkwings. This dragon has been started. There's no way you can even contest this if you're Cloud9. They're trying their damnedest to get into the pit, but it's going to be Frost Force who's pulled back in. You got Lawrence on the other side onto Darkwings, but that's a lot of damage onto Frost Force. She's getting a massive shield coming in from this Derek, jumping on top of Spawn, looking for it, but they've already lost Lawrence. They've already lost Frost Force. They're looking to see who else they can get, but it's going to be Copy taking out Spawn instead. The flash is coming in, but it's going to be back in. He goes golden to be able to survive. They got the kill on the support. Looking to see who else they can get. The flash coming in from Copy to be able to survive. Getting the root on top of Darkwings. They're going to be able to burn him down. Shut down over for King. XU now running for the hills to get back to the turret. Cloud9, they might not have gotten the dragon, but they won the fight.
Then they're going to be able to take this mid lane turret off the back of it, Magical. Suddenly, a fight that looked like it could have gone in favor of Dignitas going in favor of Cloud9. Every single time these teams meet, it feels so unclear as to who's actually going to be able to take it. But the turret going down in exchange for the dragon means that the game remains even still. And we're going to have to take a look at this. So note that at the beginning of this fight, Copy is once again very far from the fight. But this time, he's going for the teleport bottom lane. As he runs up and Spawn just slowly rips apart his team. King and Keaton still remain very healthy this entire time. And once all these cooldowns are used, it's very difficult for them to put any threat onto King. Copy is just able to run through all the low health bars because there's not enough crouch control left to take him down. And this time it's King able to chase people down, not with the red buff, with the Gravitum gun.
That was a crazy fight, though. If you look at it, the far TP for Copy, the Keeper's verdict to knock out King and Keaton looked great from Dignitas at first, but I think the thing that you highlighted was the fact that King and Keaton were untouched because of that Keeper's verdict. They were knocked away, and so when they rejoined the fight, they were both perfectly healthy.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things about the Keeper's Verdict that we haven't talked about yet, right? One, it's really good at just removing people from the fight, but Lawrence chasing down Eclipse. Can you catch him?
It's going to be difficult to actually do a lot of damage.
Fast.
With 2-level lead from Copy and the Void Staff, it's making it hurt on Eclipse. So he had to flash. He's going to be able to survive, but we now transition towards this mid lane where you can see both teams still stacking up.
Yeah, and picking up that flash in exchange for Akali's ultimate, really, really big, right? That's one of the big engage kills.
Nice,
just goes.
for XU, but he's relatively tanky. TP behind. That's Eclipse.
Teleport
That's
mid.
a big boy right behind you, and you're split up. They gotta be careful because Lawrence is not in the fight just yet. They're getting a little bit of damage on the Frost Force, trying to see if they can get this app to connect. Not gonna be able to get it, but the Dredge line will be able to connect to be able to pull him back in with the depth charge on top of him as well. The nice shield, though, with the wild growth, it's not enough to save his life as Eclipse was able to take him down. Cloud9 now. They gotta be careful. They were able to win a 4v5 fight before, but I don't think they can do it this time.
This is still pretty tough, though. That's a lot of ultimates used. There's no flash on Spawn, and Copy is still alive. His ultimate is back up. This 4v5 might be better for Cloud9 than we initially give them credit for.
They have no idea. Now they will. With the Scryer's Bloom down to 25% health. You got to be able to get into the pit now if you want to be able to steal that away. It's going to be a secure for XU with JJ taking a lot of damage, going golden, but it's going to be Eclipse instead. Copy's got to be careful. He goes back in. They're able to get 2 kills for him. See who else they can take out of the equation. Make sure that Dignitas are not going to be able to have that Baron, but it's going to be a Keeper's Verdict. Scare them off so they can't take anyone else's Baron.
Okay, Copy's here though. He's on the flank.
He
It's
wants
not
to
over.
continue this. He's got the shuriken flip. Wants to follow it up, but he holds off patiently.
Okay, Copy once again having a pretty large fight, and he wasn't late to this one, meaning that he was able to participate the entire time. They end up getting a couple of Barons off the members of Dignitas, and the gold remains even. This has been the closest game I think we've seen all Academy season long. Frost Forest.
Neck and neck between the two teams. The Baron is still on the side of Dignitas, but Frost Forest is still fighting. Hex Flash from XU with a shield for Frost Forest from that stairs gauge, the heal as well to keep him alive.
Wow, okay. They were willing to believe that there were too many members of Cloud9 around. I respect the hesitancy coming through from XU, but we know from the God's Eye that there was nobody actually on the other side of that wall. So, at the end of the day, nobody goes down gold. Less than 1,000 between them still.
Look at Copy's inventory.
Oh, he's got the book.
The book, baby. I saw the 10 stacks on that Dark Seal. I'm like, don't you disappoint me, Copy. Make sure you build my book, and he does. With the members of Cloud9 threatening Eclipse, they got the movement speed as well. But like you had talked about with Dignitas not having the vision onto Cloud9, Cloud9 lacks that vision onto Dignitas to pull the trigger.
Yeah, and Dignitas here still have the Baron. They're going to be pushing up really aggressively in the mid lane. They have a wave, and the members of Cloud9 move to the wrong place at the wrong time, but they might have a flank angle.
I don't think you do. That would have been risky to actually go for, especially because you don't know where everyone is going to run from on Dignitas, especially with a dragon now about to brew. It is going to be a third dragon regardless of which team, but it's going to be 3 Hex Tech Dragons possibly for Dignitas.
They only get one.
They've got to get into this pit. They've got to do something, otherwise it's going to be secured by XU, and that's a lot of extra damage that you're going to have on the side of Dignitas with the flash coming in from Frostforce to be able to survive. Hexgate from Lawrence. They can threaten the angle if they want to, but you got to be careful. All the members of Dignitas are nearby. They are looking for you. They are hunting for this doll. TP safety coming in from Lawrence, and it's going to be canceled from the Chaos Storm. Lawrence now has to fight his way out of hell, but it's going to be Darkwings who silences him.
Oh, another usage of the Hex Gates coming back to bite Cloud9 a little bit. This time, Lawrence is the one who ends up going down. He tries to teleport out. Not going to be enough. And Dignitas, now with total control of the map, are going to be able to push in. They already got the inhibitor turret down, Magical. They're going to be able to take the inhib and maybe force a fight to end the game.
A little bit of extra time on this Baron buff, too. Onto XU, onto Eclipse. They should at least be able to open up this inhibitor in the mid lane as the Baron has just timed out.
Not going to be able to go for anything more, but the inhibitor going down means that Wit will still be down by the time the next dragon and the next Baron are going to be spawning. So that means Dignitas is going to be in a pretty good spot, taking away the Raptors as well, the precious chicken nuggies. But Dignitas, even though the gold seems very even, it feels like they are now in firm control of the game just because they've been able to always be at these objective timers
Lawrence
first.
still has a bit of time left until he respawns. Frost Force taking a lot of damage onto Eclipse. They got XU first, looking to see if they can turn it on to JJ 4v5, but they lost Copy.
Got one.
He's lost the stacks, and they can keep engaging this fight with the pullback and shut down onto Darkwings. Lawrence is a little too late to the party, having just respawned, and it should be a clean ace. They've got a double kill. The flash in from Spawn. They're looking for Lawrence now. They got him going golden, but you know he's not going to be able to live from this one. Triple kill for Spawn.
Oh man, it looked rough at the very beginning. XU went down to start the fight, but they held firm. They knew they just needed that first kill for Spawn to just go off. He ends up with a triple to end the game, and potentially our closest game thus far, Magical, of the entire spring season, ends up going in favor of Dignitas.
Wrestled back by Dignitas down in the early stages of the game, but they pull out a victory here on day 1 of week 2 over Cloud9.
Feels good at the end of the day, right? You're going in as the villains from Dodgeball, but you're going to be coming out as the winners of the first game here on the A stream. I'm very impressed with the way that Dignitas moved around the map. Individually, they all held up their part of the bargain. The only time things faltered were when Cloud9 created enough chaos that the members of Copy and King were able to have enough influence overall, and that was one of my favorite games so far.
It was a good game, honestly. I liked watching that one, but I gotta praise the side of Dignitas, especially Spawn. His positioning in that last fight, he was the critical member to make sure he stays alive. And the reason why it was so difficult prior is that you had Copy and Lawrence always threatening to dive when anyone engaged from the side of Dignitas into the backline of Cloud9. So there, all they had to do, typical front to back, they had Copy in front of them. They didn't have to worry about Spawn ever getting jumped on.
Exactly. And we saw that when Copy went through, he immediately takes like a rocket to the face, goes down, and suddenly there's no more threat to Spawn. Lawrence, at the very end, tries to come in, but Spawn still had a flash available after that whole fight. So the composition coming through from Dignitas is fairly easy to execute. They looked good doing it, and if they can continue to play that way, they should be looking to close out not just this first half of the series, but also
I've
the
also
second
learned that Hex Tech Rift don't use the gates. This is the second time I've watched it where the gates end up backfiring completely.
They are tough to use, Magical, but we'll see. At some point, you and I will be casting a game, and somebody will use it to perfection, and then we will rethink that. But for now, we got to see a couple more opportunities for players to experiment with it, because the times that we saw it today, as you said,
results-based analysis, am I right?
100% accurate, right?
Always is. NCSD. That's sponsored by that. But you know what? We're going to toss a break. When we come back, we'll have our lovely host and Mazel having a bit of fun with us, so stick around. We'll be right back.